The blue-green world of Cathera Prime had never known war until the day the sky began to bleed. Elder Valen stood on the crystal observation deck of the High Council chamber, watching as another transport ship exploded in the atmosphere above. The wreckage fell like burning tears across the peaceful cities below, where millions of his people huddled in fear. His long, graceful fingers pressed against the cool surface of the window, leaving small prints that trembled with each distant explosion. "How many more ships have we lost?" he asked without turning around. Science Minister Thyra checked her datapad with shaking hands. 43 evacuation vessels in the last day. The enemy, they're not just destroying them. They're harvesting them. Her voice broke on the last word. Valen closed his large dark eyes and tried not to think about what harvesting meant. The Cathera had lived in peace for over 2,000 years. Their weapons were defensive shields and energy barriers. They had never needed to learn the art of killing because they had never met anything that wanted to kill them, until the Devourers came. The first reports had seemed impossible. Entire star systems going dark, civilizations that had talked and traded with the Cathera for centuries, simply stopping all communication. When scout ships were sent to investigate, they found worlds stripped bare of all life, their surfaces covered in strange, pulsing organic material that seemed to breathe. The few survivors who escaped told horrible stories. The Devourers were not a single species, but a collective mind that consumed everything in its path. They turned planets into feeding grounds and captured beings into living resources. They grew stronger with every world they took, building new ships from the bones of their victims and creating new soldiers from their flesh. "Elder, the quantum beacon is ready," Thyra said quietly, "but we still don't know if anyone will hear us, or if they'll care." Valen turned from the window and looked at the ancient artifact that sat in the center of the chamber. The quantum beacon was older than their civilization, found buried deep in their planet's crust thousands of years ago. Their best scientists had spent centuries learning how to activate it, but they had never dared to use it. The device could send messages across impossible distances, but it required enormous amounts of energy and would reveal their location to anyone listening. "What choice do we have?" Valen asked. "In 3 days, maybe 4, the Devourer fleet will break through our final defensive line. After that," he didn't need to finish the sentence. Around the chamber, the other council members nodded sadly. They had tried everything. Their defensive shields could not hold forever. Their evacuation ships were being hunted down one by one. Their calls for help to neighboring civilizations had gone unanswered because those civilizations were already gone. "Begin the transmission," Valen said. Thyra's hands moved over the beacon's controls. The ancient device began to glow with a soft blue light that grew brighter and brighter until the entire chamber was filled with its radiance. Energy readings spiked across every sensor in the building. "The beacon is active," she announced. "We're broadcasting on all frequencies in every language we know." Valen stepped forward and spoke clearly into the recording device. His words would be carried by the beacon's impossible technology to every corner of the galaxy. "To anyone who can hear this message, we are the Cathera Collective. We are a peaceful alliance of 7 species living on 12 worlds in the outer spiral. We have never harmed anyone. We have never taken anything that was not freely given. We have lived in harmony for thousands of years." His voice grew heavier as he continued. "But now we face extinction. An enemy has come to our space that we cannot fight. They call themselves the Devourers, and they consume everything they touch. They have already taken dozens of star systems. Billions of innocent lives have been lost. Through the chamber's windows, more explosions lit up the sky. A Devourer bioship, looking like a massive diseased organ with writhing tentacles, moved slowly through the upper atmosphere. It was feeding on the debris from their destroyed ships. "We have 3 days before our defenses fall completely," Valen continued. "Maybe less. We are not warriors. We do not know how to fight an enemy like this. If there is anyone out there who can help us, please, we beg you, come to our aid." He paused, watching his people flee through the streets below. "We know we have no right to ask strangers to die for us. We have nothing to offer in return except our gratitude and the knowledge that you will have saved millions of innocent lives. If you cannot help, we understand. But please remember us. Remember that we tried to live in peace." The transmission ended. The beacon's light faded. The chamber fell into silence except for the distant sounds of destruction outside. Far across the galaxy, the message reached a small monitoring station on the edge of Earth's solar system. Lieutenant Commander James Park was drinking his third cup of coffee and reading reports about mining operations on Titan when every alarm in the station began screaming at once. "What the hell?" he muttered, spilling coffee across his console as he rushed to check the sensors. The readings were impossible. Someone had just sent a quantum transmission with enough power to reach across half the galaxy. The message was encoded in over 50 different languages, none of them human. Park's hands flew over his controls as he began recording and analyzing the signal. The station's computer systems worked frantically to decode the alien languages, using pattern recognition and mathematical constants to find meaning in the strange sounds and symbols. When the translation finally appeared on his screen, Park read it twice before he believed what he was seeing. Then he activated the emergency communication array and sent the message directly to Earth Command. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Chen was in a late-night strategy meeting about asteroid mining rights when her communication device buzzed with an emergency alert. She was tired and annoyed at being interrupted until she read the first line of the transmission. "Get me the president," she said, her voice cutting through the room's conversation like a blade. Now. Within hours, the alien message had reached the highest levels of Earth's government and military. Linguists and xenobiologists worked around the clock to verify the translation and learn everything they could about the Kythera Collective. What they found was both heartbreaking and alarming. The Kythera were exactly what they claimed to be: peaceful, intelligent beings who had never known war. But the Devourers were something else entirely. A parasitic species that had evolved to consume other civilizations, growing stronger with each conquest. Earth's leaders faced a terrible choice. They could ignore the message and hope the Devourers never reached human space, or they could send their military forces across impossible distances to fight an unknown enemy for the sake of strangers. The debate lasted less than 6 hours. "We're going," Admiral Chen announced to the assembled fleet commanders. "Not because we have to, but because it's the right thing to do." She looked around the room at faces both excited and terrified. "These Devourers think they understand how the galaxy works. They think all intelligent species are prey. It's time to show them what real predators look like." The orders went out within minutes. Earth's most advanced warships began preparing for a journey to the far side of the galaxy. Soldiers who had trained for theoretical alien conflicts suddenly found themselves facing the real thing. On Kythera Prime, Elder Valen stood again at his window, watching the enemy ships grow closer. He had received no response to their plea. Perhaps no one had heard them. Perhaps no one cared. He did not know that help was coming. He could not imagine the kind of help that was coming, but across the dark void between stars, Earth's finest warriors were already on their way. The warship Fenrir's Wake cut through space like a knife through darkness, leading a fleet of 37 vessels toward the unknown. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, watching the star maps update as they jumped from system to system, each leap bringing them closer to the desperate alien civilization that had called for help. "Ma'am, we're receiving more intercepted transmissions from the Devourer fleet," reported Lieutenant Commander Torres from the communications station. "The translation software is getting better at understanding their language." Chen walked over to read the latest intercepts. What she saw made her jaw clench with barely controlled anger. The Devourers weren't just attacking the Kythera. They were playing with them. Their communications discussed the quality of the harvest and which prisoners would make the best breeding stock for their bioships. "These aren't soldiers," she said quietly to her first officer, Commander Jackson Reed. "They're hunters. They see all other life as prey." Reed nodded grimly. He had been reading the same reports. The psychological profiles suggest they've never encountered a species that fights back effectively. Every civilization they've met has been defensive in nature. Chen turned to address the entire bridge crew. "Listen up, people. We're not just going to fight these Devourers. We're going to teach them something they've never learned before, what it feels like to be prey." She activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. I'm promoting myself to Admiral because someone needs to coordinate this mess, and it might as well be me." Scattered laughter came through the comm channels. Chen had that effect on people. She could make them smile even when they were facing the impossible. "We're 12 hours from the Kythera system," she continued. "I want all units to review the combat protocols we developed during the journey. Remember, we're not fighting a traditional enemy. The Devourers use bioships that can heal themselves and weapons that are literally alive. Our advantage is that they have no idea what we're capable of. Down in the ship's training bay, Sergeant Major Elena Vasquez was putting the final touches on her squad's equipment. The Apex units, as they had started calling themselves, were soldiers who had volunteered for experimental enhancement procedures. Their reflexes had been boosted, their coordination improved, and their killer instincts sharpened to a razor's edge. Remember, Vasquez told her team as they checked their weapons, these Devourers have been the top predators in this galaxy for who knows how long. They're not used to being hunted. Use that against them. Private First Class David Kim raised his hand. Sarge, what if they're right? What if we're just another species of prey and we're walking into a slaughter? Vasquez grinned, showing teeth that had been enhanced with titanium replacements. Kid, humans have been apex predators since before we invented fire. We hunted mammoths to extinction with pointed sticks. We domesticated wolves because we thought they'd make good hunting partners. We're so good at killing things that we had to invent civilization just to stop ourselves from wiping out everything on our own planet. She picked up her assault rifle and ran her hands along its length lovingly. These Devourers have never met anything like us. They think they understand predators because they are one, but they're parasites. We're hunters. There's a difference. In the ship's science lab, Dr. Amanda Foster was working with a team of xenobiologists to understand everything they could about Devourer physiology. The few images they had managed to capture from long-range scans showed creatures that seemed to be part machine, part living tissue. They've evolved to absorb and integrate other life forms, she explained to the assembled medical staff. Their bodies can literally consume enemy technology and make it part of themselves. But that also means they have weaknesses. She pulled up a holographic display showing a Devourer soldier. The creature looked like a nightmare. A vaguely humanoid shape covered in writhing tentacles and organic armor that pulsed with its own heartbeat. See these integration points? She indicated several spots where the creature's natural flesh met obviously foreign technology. Those are vulnerabilities. Their strength is also their weakness. They're so good at absorbing other technologies that they've never developed strong defenses against attacks specifically designed to target their biological systems. Dr. Foster activated another display showing chemical formulas. I've been working with the weapons team to develop ammunition that will exploit these weaknesses. Basically, we're creating bullets that will poison their entire integrated system. Back on the bridge, Chen received a priority message from Earth Command. The transmission had taken weeks to reach them, but it carried the full authorization of the Global Defense Coalition. Captain Chen, the recorded message began, you are hereby authorized to use any means necessary to defend the Cathera Collective and eliminate the Devourer threat. The entire resources of Earth's military are being mobilized to support your mission. Additional fleets are being prepared, but they won't reach you for months. You're on your own until then. The message continued with technical specifications for new weapons being shipped to support bases, but Chen stopped listening. On her own. That was fine. Humans had always done their best work when they were outnumbered and outgunned. Ma'am, called out Ensign Patterson from the sensor station, we're picking up massive energy signatures ahead. I think we've found the battle. The main screen lit up with a view of the Cathera system. It was a beautiful collection of blue and green worlds orbiting a gentle yellow star. It should have been peaceful. Instead, it was surrounded by the writhing organic shapes of Devourer bioships. The enemy vessels looked like they had been grown rather than built. Their hulls were modeled with organic patterns, and tentacles the size of city blocks reached out from their sides, grabbing at fleeing Cathara ships and pulling them inside gaping mouths that opened in the bioships' hulls. Jesus, whispered Commander Reed. How many ships are there? Computer analysis indicates approximately 200 enemy vessels, reported Patterson. They're arranged in a feeding pattern around the inhabited worlds. The Cathera defensive fleet appears to be down to less than 30 ships. Chen watched as a Cathera vessel, elegant and crystalline, clearly built for beauty rather than war, fired its defensive beams at a Devourer bioship. The energy bounced harmlessly off the organic armor, and the bioship responded by extending a massive tentacle that wrapped around the smaller ship and began squeezing. Not anymore, Chen said quietly, then louder. All ships, battle stations. We're going in. Ma'am, Reed said carefully. We're outnumbered 6-1. Chen smiled, and there was something in that smile that would have made a shark nervous. Jack, you're thinking like prey. We're not trying to fight their entire fleet at once. We're going to hunt them. She turned to the tactical officer. Launch all fighter squadrons. I want them to hit the bioships that are currently feeding. Target their integration points with the new ammunition Dr. Foster developed. Make them think they're under attack by multiple fleets. Ma'am, that will reveal our position to their entire fleet. Good, Chen replied. I want them to know we're here. Predators hunt best when their prey is panicked. The human fleet spread out and began their attack. Fighter squadrons screamed through space, their weapons firing specially designed rounds that began dissolving the Devourer bioship's organic armor. The main battle cruisers targeted the enemy's command vessels with focused beam attacks that cut through tentacles and hull plating like heated knives through flesh. For the first time in their existence, the Devourers found themselves under attack by an enemy that seemed to enjoy fighting. The human ships moved in coordinated patterns that reminded older Earth veterans of wolfpack hunts. They would strike fast, cause maximum damage, and disappear before the bioships could respond effectively. On the Kythera command ship, Elder Valen watched in amazement as the tide of battle began to turn. These new ships fought like nothing he had ever seen. They were aggressive, coordinated, and seemed to anticipate their enemies' moves before they made them. Who are they? He asked his tactical officer. Unknown, Elder. They haven't responded to our communication attempts yet, but they're definitely fighting the Devourers. Valen nodded slowly. Then they are our friends. Send them our gratitude and offer them any assistance we can provide. The message reached the Fenrir's wake, just as Chen was coordinating the next wave of attacks. She read the translated text and felt something warm in her chest. These people were still polite and grateful even in the middle of a battle for their lives. Send a response, she told Torres. Tell them we're humans from Earth and we came because they asked for help. She paused, watching another Devourer bioship explode in a brilliant flash of organic fire. And tell them to stay out of our way. We're just getting started. The first time Elder Valen saw a human in person, the human was covered in Devourer blood and grinning like a predator. It happened during the battle for the orbital defense platform above. Kythera Prime. The Devourers had managed to board the station and were systematically converting its defensive systems into organic weapons. Kythera security forces had been pushed back to the central command center, waiting for the inevitable end. Then the humans arrived. Sergeant Major Elena Vasquez kicked down the blast door that separated the command center from the corridor beyond. Behind her came a squad of Apex units, their enhanced reflexes making them move faster than anything Valen had ever seen. But it wasn't their speed that shocked him. It was the way they seemed to enjoy what they were doing. The lead human, Vasquez, though Valen didn't know her name yet, looked around the command center filled with terrified Kythera personnel and nodded approvingly. Good, you're all still alive. That makes this easier. She turned to her squad. Standard sweep pattern. Remember, the Devourers on this station have been feeding for several hours, so they'll be sluggish. Use that against them. Ma'am, one of her soldiers replied. What about the civilians? Vasquez glanced at the Kythera personnel again. To Valen, her expression seemed almost amused. What about them? They're staying here where it's safe. We're going hunting. And with that, the humans disappeared back into the corridor, moving through the station like they owned it. Through the command center's internal monitors, Valen watched the humans work. They moved through the corridors in perfect coordination, communicating with hand signals and quick whispers. When they encountered Devourer soldiers, hideous creatures that looked like walking nightmares of flesh and metal, they didn't hesitate or show fear. They attacked. The first Devourer they found was feeding on the station's power core. Its tentacles wrapped around the energy conduits while it absorbed power directly into its body. The creature was 12 feet tall and covered in armor that had grown from absorbed Kythera technology. The humans surrounded it without making a sound. Then, at some unspoken signal, they opened fire. Their weapons made a distinctive sound, sharp cracks that echoed through the metal corridors. But the ammunition they used was unlike anything Valen had seen before. Instead of simply penetrating the Devourer's armor, the bullets seemed to poison it. Where they struck, the creature's organic components began to dissolve, eating away at its integrated systems. The Devourer screamed, a sound like metal being torn apart, and lashed out with its tentacles. One of the humans ducked under the attack and rolled forward, coming up close enough to press his rifle directly against the creature's central mass. "Sweet dreams," he said, and pulled the trigger. The devourer collapsed, its body dissolving into a pool of organic waste. "One down," Vasquez's voice came through the monitors. "Sensors show 15 more on this level. Let's keep moving." Valen turned to his security chief, Captain Thyron. "Are they always like this?" Thyron, whose feathers were still standing up from stress, could only shake his head. "I don't know, Elder. I've never seen anything like them." The humans continued their sweep of the station, and Valen continued to watch in fascination and growing horror. These beings fought like they had been born for it. They anticipated their enemies' moves, coordinated their attacks with precision that spoke of long practice, and never seemed to tire or slow down. But it was their attitude that disturbed him most. They weren't grim or scared or angry. They seemed happy. When they encountered a group of 5 devourers that had converted an entire section of the station into a feeding chamber, the humans didn't retreat or call for backup. They studied the situation for exactly 30 seconds, made their plan, and attacked. Private Kim threw something small and round into the chamber. It exploded in a flash of bright light that made the devourers' enhanced senses overwhelm them with pain. While they were blinded and confused, the rest of the squad entered the chamber from 3 different directions. What followed could barely be called a battle. It was more like a dance. The humans moved around each other without getting in each other's way, their weapons firing in coordinated patterns that caught the devourers in crossfires they couldn't escape. In less than 2 minutes, all 5 devourers were dead and the humans were already moving to the next objective. "This is wrong," whispered Thyron. "No species should be this good at killing." But Valen was beginning to understand something that terrified and amazed him at the same time. "They're not just good at it," he said slowly. "They're enjoying it." An hour later, the station was clear. Every devourer on board had been eliminated, their organic components dissolved by the humans' specially designed ammunition. The humans had suffered exactly 0 casualties. Vasquez appeared in the command center again, this time moving at a more relaxed pace. Her armor was splattered with the remains of her enemies, but she seemed completely unbothered by it. "Station is secure," she announced. "Your technical teams can start repairs whenever they're ready." Valen stepped forward, trying to find words. Thank you. You have saved us all." Vasquez looked at him for a long moment, and he got the distinct impression he was being evaluated. "You're welcome. But this is just the beginning. Your real problem isn't this station. It's that fleet of bioships surrounding your planet." She activated a portable communication device. "Admiral Chen, this is Vasquez. The orbital platform is secure and ready to support fleet operations." Chen's voice came through clearly. "Understood, Sergeant Major. How are our new allies holding up?" "They're tougher than they look," Vasquez replied, glancing at Valen. "But they're not warriors. Not like the Devourers are used to fighting, and definitely not like us." "Copy that. Prepare for Phase 2. We're going to start hunting the bioships directly." Valen felt his heart sink. "Admiral Chen, with respect, we tried to fight their ships directly. Our weapons barely damage them, and they can heal faster than we can hurt them." Chen's laugh came through the communication device, and it sent chills down Valen's spine. "Elder Valen, I appreciate your concern, but you've been trying to fight them like prey animals. We're going to fight them like predators." 3 hours later, Valen watched from the orbital platform as the human fleet began their attack on the Devourer bioships. But this wasn't like any space battle he had ever seen or read about. Instead of forming battle lines and exchanging fire at long range, the human ships moved in small groups that attacked individual bioships from multiple directions. They used the bioship's own size against them, darting in close where the larger vessels couldn't bring their main weapons to bear. When a bioship tried to grab a human destroyer with its tentacles, 3 other human ships would appear and target those same tentacles with focused fire. When the bioship pulled back in pain, the destroyer would slip away and the cycle would begin again. "They're pack hunters," Thyron observed, watching the tactical display. "Like the predators on our homeworld, but in space." Valen nodded slowly. "And the bioships don't know how to deal with it. They're used to prey that either runs away or dies quickly. They've never faced an enemy that hunts them back." The battle continued for hours. Gradually, the massive Devourer fleet began to break apart as bioship after bioship fell to the humans' coordinated attacks. Some tried to escape, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. None of the fleeing bioships made it out of the system. When it was over, Elder Valen found himself sitting in the command center, staring at displays showing a completely clear space around Cathara Prime. For the first time in weeks, his homeworld was safe, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Devourers controlled dozens of star systems. They had consumed entire civilizations and turned their populations into resources for their bioships. This victory, as amazing as it was, had only eliminated one small part of a much larger threat. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system again. "Elder Valen, this is Admiral Chen. We need to talk. Can you come aboard my ship?" "Of course, Admiral. I will come immediately. Bring your best tactical minds with you," Chen continued. "We need to discuss what happens next." As Valen prepared to leave for the human flagship, he reflected on everything he had seen. These humans were unlike anything in the galaxy. They were intelligent, organized, and completely without fear when facing an enemy. But what struck him most was their attitude toward violence. For the Cathara and for every other species he knew, fighting was something you did when you had no choice. It was desperate, unpleasant, and something to be avoided whenever possible. For humans, fighting seemed to be something they had been designed for. They didn't just tolerate violence, they excelled at it. They had turned killing into an art form, and they had clearly spent a very long time perfecting that art. As his shuttle approached the human flagship, Valen wondered if his people had accidentally called upon something even more dangerous than the Devourers. The humans had saved them, yes, but what kind of species became that good at war without becoming monsters themselves? He was about to find out. Admiral Chen stood in the war room of the Fenrir's wake, surrounded by holographic displays showing the true scope of the Devourer Empire. Red markers indicated consumed worlds. Yellow showed systems currently under attack. The few green dots represented free civilizations, and those were growing fewer every day. "This is worse than we thought," she said to the assembled officers and Elder Valen, who had arrived with several other Cathara leaders. "Our long-range scans show at least 47 star systems under complete Devourer control. That's not counting the ones we can't reach with our sensors." Dr. Foster activated another display, showing biological analysis data. The Devourers aren't just conquering these worlds, they're transforming them. Each conquered planet becomes a breeding ground for more bioships and soldiers. They're using the captured populations as living components for their technology. Elder Valen's feathers darkened with distress. "Are you saying the people we failed to save are still alive? Being used as materials?" "Some of them," Dr. Foster confirmed gently. "The Devourers keep the most useful captives alive and integrate them into their systems. We've detected Cathara technology signatures in some of the bioships we destroyed. Your people who were captured are probably still conscious inside those ships." The silence in the room was broken by Commander Reed. "That changes everything. This isn't just about stopping an invasion, it's about rescue operations on a galactic scale." Chen nodded grimly. "Which brings us to our next problem. We can win tactical battles against the Devourers, but we can't fight their entire empire with just 37 ships. We need a new strategy." She gestured to the largest display showing what their analysis had revealed about Devourer command structure. "The good news is that they operate like a hive mind with centralized control. Take out the right targets and whole fleets become disorganized. The bad news is that their command ship is here." The display zoomed in on a system near the galactic core. The central planet appeared to be entirely covered in organic structures that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns. "We're calling it the Nexus," Chen continued. "Every Devourer communication we've intercepted originates from or routes through this world. It appears to be the central brain of their entire collective consciousness. So we destroy it," said Captain Morrison from the cruiser Mjolnir. "Cut off the head and the body dies." "It's not that simple," Dr. Foster interjected. "To reach the Nexus, we'd have to fight through 40-plus star systems of Devourer-controlled space. Even if we could win those battles, we'd lose most of our ships in the process." Elder Valen spoke up quietly. Perhaps there is another way. Before the Devourers came, we had contact with many civilizations, if even some of them survived. A coalition," Chen said thoughtfully, "hit multiple Devourer systems simultaneously, forced them to spread their defenses thin." "Ma'am," interrupted Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. We're receiving a priority transmission from the outer system. It's another distress call. The main screen switched to show the translation of an alien message. This one came from a species called the Zilani, whose crystalline cities were under attack 3 systems away. Like the Kithara, they were peaceful traders who had never developed military technology. How long before their defenses fall? Chen asked. Analysis suggests 6 to 8 hours, ma'am. Chen looked around the room at her officers. She could see the same thought in all their eyes. 47 enslaved star systems. Billions of captives being used as living components. And now another peaceful civilization about to fall. All right, people. We're splitting the fleet. Commander Reed stepped forward. Ma'am, that's tactically unsound. We barely have enough ships to— Jack, we're not thinking big enough, Chen interrupted. The Devourers have spent thousands of years as the apex predators in this galaxy. They've never faced an enemy that hunts them systematically. We're going to change that. She began issuing orders. Morrison, take 12 ships to the Zilani system. Save who you can and gather intelligence on Devourer fleet movements. Foster, I want you working with the Kithara scientists to mass-produce those bioweapons. Vasquez, select your best teams for deep infiltration missions. Infiltration missions, ma'am? Vasquez asked. We're going to board their bioships, Chen explained. Not to destroy them, but to free the captives inside. Every person we rescue is someone who knows Devourer weaknesses. Every bioship we capture intact gives us more intelligence about their technology. Over the following weeks, the human strategy began to take shape. Small teams of enhanced soldiers would infiltrate Devourer bioships during battles, using the chaos of combat to slip inside the organic vessels. Once aboard, they would locate imprisoned populations and extract them while gathering intelligence about Devourer operations. It was dangerous work. The interior of a bioship was like stepping inside a living nightmare. Corridors that pulsed with alien heartbeats, walls that bled when damaged, and the constant presence of captives who had been partially integrated into the ship's systems. Sergeant Major Vasquez led the first infiltration mission personally. Her team of 6 soldiers boarded a bioship during the battle for the Zilani homeworld, cutting through its organic hull with specially designed plasma torches. Inside, they found horrors that would haunt their dreams for years to come. Entire sections of the ship were lined with pods containing captured beings from dozens of different species. Some were still conscious, their minds connected to the ship's navigation systems. Others had been so thoroughly integrated that they were more machine than living creature. But they also found something the Devourers hadn't expected: resistance. A group of Zilani prisoners had managed to maintain their individual consciousness despite being connected to the ship's systems. When the humans found them, they had been working for months to sabotage their bioship from within. You're not Devourers, one of the Zilani said through the ship's communication system, her crystalline features visible in a partially organic viewing screen. No, Vasquez replied. We're humans. We're here to get you out. Humans? The Zilani's confusion was obvious. We never heard of humans. How did you find us? The Kithara called for help. We answered. Vasquez began cutting through the organic cables that connected the Zilani to the ship's systems. How many of you are still aware in here? 43 from my world. But there are others. Hundreds of others from different species. Some have been here for years. The extraction took 4 hours. Working carefully to avoid damaging the nervous systems of the captives, the human team freed every conscious prisoner they could find. They also downloaded massive amounts of data from the bioship's organic computers. When they finally evacuated, they took with them not just survivors, but detailed intelligence about Devourer fleet movements, breeding cycles, and most importantly, the location of other imprisoned populations. This changes everything, Dr. Foster announced when she finished analyzing the rescued data. The Devourers aren't just random raiders. They're following a specific pattern, targeting civilizations in a particular order. If we can predict their next moves, we can get there first, Chen finished. Set traps, prepare defenses, maybe even turn some of their own bioships against them. The rescued Zilani proved to be incredibly valuable allies. Their crystalline technology was naturally resistant to Devourer biointegration, and their mathematical understanding of dimensional physics helped the humans improve their faster-than-light travel. But more importantly, they brought news of other survivor populations hidden throughout Devourer space. Small groups of escaped prisoners, hidden colonies, even entire worlds that had managed to resist devourer attacks through isolation and clever defensive strategies. "We're not alone," Elder Valen said during one of the regular strategy meetings. "There are hundreds of species still fighting back. They just need coordination, leadership," Chen nodded slowly, "and weapons, and training, and most importantly, hope." She activated the strategic display again, but this time it looked different. The red markers representing devourer-controlled systems were still there, but now there were blue markers showing confirmed survivor populations and potential allies. "Here's what we're going to do," Chen announced. "We're going to turn this galaxy into the devourer's worst nightmare. Every world they think they control is going to become a battleground. Every bioship they send out is going to face an enemy that knows exactly how to hurt them." She smiled, and once again Elder Valen was struck by how terrifying human expressions could be when they were happy about violence. "The devourers have been the hunters in this galaxy for a long time," Chen continued. "But they've never been hunted before. They're about to learn what it feels like to be prey." Through the ship's communication system, reports began coming in from human teams across a dozen star systems, rescue operations, sabotage missions, and coordinated attacks on devourer supply lines. For the first time since the war began, the devourers were being forced to react instead of act. But the humans were just getting started. Deep in the intelligence data recovered from captured bioships, they had found something that changed everything: the exact location of the Nexus world and detailed information about its defenses. The final hunt was about to begin. The Nexus world hung before them like a diseased heart, pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that could be seen from space. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Fenrir's wake, now part of a fleet that had grown from 37 human ships to over 200 vessels, representing 43 different species. "It's beautiful in a horrible way," commented Captain Thyron, the Kythera officer who had volunteered to serve as liaison for the multi-species fleet. His feathers rippled with nervous energy as he stared at the massive world that served as the brain of the Devourer Collective. Chen nodded, studying the sensor readings. The planet's entire surface had been converted into one vast neural network. Organic structures the size of mountains pulsed in rhythm, connected by bioconduits that carried information across continents. In orbit, thousands of bioships moved in perfect coordination, like white blood cells protecting a living organism. "How many ships are we facing?" she asked her tactical officer. "Conservative estimate puts it at 3,000 bioships of various sizes," Lieutenant Commander Patterson replied. "But ma'am, some of these are larger than anything we've encountered before. The biggest ones are showing up as small moons on our sensors." Dr. Foster, now coordinating scientific teams from a dozen different species, activated a holographic display showing their analysis of the Nexus defenses. "The good news is that we understand how their command structure works now. Every bioship in orbit is directly controlled by the planetary consciousness below. If we can disrupt that connection, they become just very large, very angry animals," Chen finished. "The question is how we get close enough to the planet to do any real damage." The answer came from an unexpected source. Commander Selen, a crystalline being from the Zalani, stepped forward with data from her people's mathematical analysis. "Admiral Chen, our calculations suggest that the Devourers have made a fundamental error in their defensive strategy," she said, her voice ringing like distant chimes. "They have optimized their defenses against the type of enemies they have always faced, species that attack in organized fleets with predictable patterns. But not against predators," Chen said, understanding immediately. "Exactly. Their bioships are designed to respond to threats as a collective. But if we attack them the way Earth predators hunt in packs?" Chen smiled, and by now every alien officer in the fleet had learned to recognize that particular expression. It meant the humans had thought of something their enemies wouldn't like. "Scatter formation," she announced to the fleet. "Every ship picks its own target and attacks independently. No formations, no coordinated timing, no predictable patterns. We hunt like wolves, not like an army." The alien commanders looked confused, but the human captains nodded with understanding. This was warfare the way their species had practiced it for millions of years. Small groups of hunters taking down prey much larger than themselves through superior coordination and persistence. "All ships," Chen broadcast to the entire fleet. "Remember what we learned from the rescued prisoners. The bioships can heal themselves, but only if their neural connections to the nexus remain intact. Your job is to get close enough to sever those connections. Once a bioship is cut off from the collective, it becomes vulnerable. She paused, looking around the bridge at the mix of human and alien officers working together. And remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. Every world the Devourers have taken, every person they've enslaved, every civilization they've destroyed, today we fight for all of them. The attack began not with a thunderous charge, but with the patient approach of hunters who had studied their prey. Individual ships and small groups broke away from the main fleet, approaching the nexus from dozens of different directions. They moved at different speeds, using different tactics, creating a chaotic pattern that the Devourer defensive computers couldn't predict or counter effectively. Captain Morrison aboard the Mjolnir led a group of heavy cruisers in a direct assault on the largest bioships, drawing their attention while smaller vessels slipped past the outer defenses. His weapons, now enhanced with technology from 6 different species, tore through bioship armor that had previously been impenetrable. Sergeant Major Vasquez commanded a squadron of fast attack ships that darted between the giant bioships like predatory fish, targeting the neural conduits that connected them to the planetary consciousness below. Her enhanced reflexes, now aided by Zelani mathematical predictions and Cathara defensive shielding, made her nearly untouchable as she led her ships in surgical strikes against the enemy's command infrastructure. Elder Valen, despite his people's peaceful nature, had insisted on participating in the battle. He commanded a Cathara science vessel that stayed behind the main assault, using advanced sensors to identify weak points in the bioship's defenses and relay that information to the attacking forces. "Admiral," his voice came through the communication system, "I'm detecting massive neural activity from the planet's surface. I think the collective consciousness is trying to adapt to our attack pattern." Chen had expected this. All ships, Phase 2. Random rotation of tactics every 30 minutes. Don't let them learn our patterns. What followed was unlike any space battle in recorded history. Instead of massive fleets clashing in organized formations, it became a deadly game of cat and mouse played out across an entire star system. Human ships would attack with one set of tactics, then disappear and reappear using completely different strategies. Alien vessels contributed their own unique capabilities. Zelani ships that could phase through bioship armor, Cathara vessels that projected defensive fields around damaged human ships, and dozens of other species, each adding their own specialized abilities to the hunt. The Devourer bioships, for the first time in their existence, found themselves confused and disorganized. Their collective consciousness had been designed to coordinate responses against traditional military attacks. But this chaotic predatory assault was unlike anything they had evolved to handle. One by one, bioships began to lose their connections to the nexus. Cut off from the collective consciousness, they reverted to basic animal behaviors, lashing out wildly, fleeing, or simply floating dead in space as their integrated systems failed without central coordination. But the Devourers had one final surprise. As the human-led fleet began to break through the orbital defenses, the planet itself began to change. The massive neural structures on its surface started to glow brighter, and new bioships began erupting from the planet's crust like enormous spores. "They're using the entire planet as a breeding ground," Dr. Foster announced, her voice tight with concern. "If we don't stop this now, they'll produce thousands of new ships." Chen made a decision that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. "All ships form up on me. We're going to the surface." "Ma'am," Commander Reed objected, "atmospheric combat against planetary defenses is suicide." "Not if we do it right," Chen replied. "We're not going to fight the planet. We're going to perform surgery on it." The Fenrir's wake led a formation of 50 ships directly into the Nexus world's atmosphere. The planet's defenses, massive organic cannons and swarms of smaller bioships, opened fire on them immediately. But the human fleet had learned from months of fighting Devourers. They knew exactly where to hit. Using intelligence gathered from rescued prisoners and captured bioships, they targeted the planet's main neural nexuses, massive brain-like structures that coordinated the collective consciousness. The specialized ammunition developed by Dr. Foster and her team began eating away at the organic computers that controlled the entire Devourer empire. As each neural nexus fell, the effects rippled throughout the galaxy, Devourer fleets in distant star systems suddenly lost coordination. Bioships that had been pursuing fleeing refugees stopped mid-hunt, as their connection to Central Command was severed. The final nexus was located deep within the planet's core, a massive brain the size of a city that pulsed with the accumulated consciousness of billions of absorbed minds. To reach it, Chen had to make the most dangerous decision of her career. "This is Admiral Chen to all ships. I'm taking a small team down to finish this personally. If we don't come back, continue the mission. The galaxy is depending on us." She led a team of volunteers, human and alien working together, deep into the bowels of the living planet. They fought their way through corridors that tried to digest them, past guardian creatures that were more nightmare than biology, until they finally reached the central brain. Inside the massive chamber, they could see the imprisoned consciousness of countless civilizations, beings from hundreds of different worlds, their minds trapped in organic pods and forced to serve the Devourer Collective. "Admiral," came Elder Valen's voice through her communication device. "I'm reading massive neural activity. The Collective is concentrating all its remaining power to stop you." Chen looked at the enormous brain before her, pulsing with malevolent intelligence. This thing had consumed entire civilizations. It had enslaved billions of innocent beings. It had turned the galaxy into a hunting ground. "Not anymore," she said quietly. The final battle was fought not with ships or weapons, but with will. As Chen's team worked to free the imprisoned minds and destroy the central consciousness,